Yuri, who's going to talk to us about New Year from hope to action.
Thank you. Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the meeting, the Sunday meeting at Conscious Living. As Susanna has said, today is an amazing day because this is the time we're getting back to our work here, the time we're getting back to getting together every Sunday to think a little bit more about the teachings of Master Jesus, to think a little bit more about what Spiritism as a whole can bring to us, especially in this new year, but more than that, what we can bring into the equation, what we can bring into this new year. And the theme or the title of today's presentation is New Year from Hope to Action. The notion here was to make us think that we're starting a new year. So, we're still a few days into the new year, into 2026. And we have to imagine, or we have to think, what are we bringing into this new year? Are we just filling it with hope? Because that's what I think we all do at the beginning of the year, or when it's December 31st, we wait patiently for the calendar to jump ahead 1 year, and we celebrate the ball drop or whatever you celebrate. And we're filled with hope. We're filled with hope for a better year, for more accomplishments, for more acquisitions, for whatever it is that we're hoping to achieve / get / obtain. But we must not forget the work of action. That's why the idea of today's talk is to inspire us, to make us think of the role perhaps of hope that hope has for the new year, but also the role of action. Because if we're just hoping and crossing our arms and doing nothing, nothing will happen. In fact, something will happen, but not what we expect. Idleness is not going to bring us anything. So from hope to action, imagine almost as a trajectory, as a path from one to another. So I bring The Consoler here, a book by Chico Xavier, where Emmanuel answers questions. And talking about hope, first and foremost, they're going to ask him, are hope and faith one and the same virtue? So when we say hope, are we referring to faith as well? Is that the same thing, perhaps? And Emmanuel is going to say, hope is the beloved daughter of faith. I love this answer. Hope is the beloved daughter of faith. They are to each other as the reflected light of the planets is central and is to the central and steady light of the sun. So making an analogy here, or a comparison between hope and faith and the light of the sun and the light that comes from perhaps the moon or the planets and everything that's in orbit. So one, and he's going to say hope is like the moonlight. If you think of the moon does not have its own light. It's a reflection. So hope is the moonlight made from the balms of faith, whereas faith is the divine clarity of conviction. Therefore, faith is this divine clarity of conviction. When we're talking about hope, we're also talking about faith, but we have to be able to distinguish between these two ideas, perhaps these two virtues, or one being the preferred daughter or beloved daughter of the other, but understanding that faith does play a role. So when we're imagining 2026, when we're imagining this new year that just started, what is it going to bring? When we think of faith, we think of hope, we have to be able to understand what is faith actually. Is this unshakable virtue, the divine clarity of certainty. And Emmanuel is putting the word divine in the equation here. So are we going to be what type of faith are we going to be bringing when we're talking about hope? What type of faith are we bringing into 2026? Are we bringing perhaps a faith that we had in 2025 when troubles came into our lives and we just gave up? Or we lost hope? We lost faith? We stopped believing? That's something for us to reflect. So when we go into 2026 now, understanding that faith must be with us throughout the whole year if we are to achieve slash accomplish slash obtain anything that we desire. We must have faith. We must have that divine clarity of conviction. And when I read this, it made me think of Simon Peter in the beginnings when he was with Jesus, in that moment when Jesus said, okay, it's like, if it's you, master, tell me and I'm going to walk on the water as well to go to you. And he's like, come. And Simon Peter started to walk on water. But then the Bible says that there came a wind, a strong wind, and all of a sudden he started to drown. His faith was shaken by the wind. He had faith even in the little moment there, in the tiny moment, but then his faith was shaken. So what type of faith are we bringing perhaps into 2026? The one that with any trouble that arises, we're already like giving up? And it's great, like Susanna said, the message from the beginning fits so well by accident on this, message 159, when Joanna DeAngeli says, when life spins out of control. Because guess what? 2026 will have its moments where life will be spinning out of control. So what are we going to do with that? It's not going to be a magical transition from 2025 to 2026 where all of a sudden everything is in the rose and everything is an easy path. So what type of faith are we bringing? And I also saw a little image that made me think when I was constructing this, the difference between doubt and faith. And I loved it. It's so simple, but I feel it brings so much wisdom. It says, so doubt is what if. What if is doubt. Faith is even if. How nice. Just one small change in the word changes completely. Doubt is what if. What if? Faith is even if. Even if. But when we talk about faith, from hope to action, we have to talk about work. And in the book, Our Daily Bread, this one psychographed by Chico as well, we're going to learn that it is interesting to note that of all his disciples, the master regards most highly those who listen to his teachings and actually put them into practice. We must put these teachings into practice. We must apply these things that we're studying, we're reflecting on, we're learning. From this, we may conclude that people of faith are not only those who are prodigious in words and enthusiasm, but those who also display attention and goodwill in light of Jesus' teachings, studying their spiritual content in order to apply them in their daily endeavors. Through all the battles we're going to face in 2026, through all the challenges that are going to come into our lives in 2026, we must be able to get those teachings and not only be thinking about them, absorbing them. How these words are so beautiful. I feel so good now. Yeah, but how are we applying that? We must apply those. Attention and goodwill in light of Jesus' teachings, but applying them in our daily endeavors, in our daily lives, because life is going to be, like I said, full of challenges. But don't imagine just a challenge from something that's a challenge of 2026. Any big challenge is composed of small daily battles, daily challenges. From something as simple as just, like Susanna said, like if you want to lose weight, if you want to exercise more this year, whatever sort of New Year's resolution we have delineated for ourselves, perhaps, it's going to be comprised of everyday action. Everyday action. And it's one of the issues that I think with New Year's resolutions, when we're thinking of goals only or things that we want to achieve, when we think too much in the macro, not so much in the micro. We think too big, like I wanna lose X amount of pounds. Okay, but like how am I gonna get there? Or I want to exercise these many times, or I want to get this new hobby, or I want to do more charity work. Everything sometimes is too subjective, and we miss on the point of actually doing the work day by day, time by time, hour by hour sometimes. Not for nothing, they say, research says that 80% of all New Year's resolutions are already gone by February. 80% are gone by February, the second month, so they don't even last a whole 2 months, you know. Why? There's something there. There's something there. And this other message that I wanted to bring, when Susanna also so well mentioned this idea of persistence, of resilience, it is so important. As Joanna said also in the message at the beginning, when these things come, we must be able to keep on our steady path. Because challenges, like I said, they will come. These problems, they will arise. And this message by this author called Albino Teixeira, psychographed by Chico, it's called Try Again. And he's going to say this: if you fall, don't despair. Try walking again. If you cry, don't despair. Try to be happy again. If you suffer, don't rebel. Try to understand again. And this is an interesting one too, because a lot of the times the suffering is going to come from a lack of faith, a lack of understanding, a lack of benevolence. If you are offended, do not retaliate. Try to forgive again. Here's a great New Year's resolution: to forgive more. Others and ourselves. Self-forgiveness as well. If old problems reappear, because they will reappear, guess what? They will reappear. Don't be distressed. Try to solve them again. If you feel abandoned, don't be troubled. Try to find a new friend again. Build new connections. If ingratitude hurts you, don't lose faith in goodness. Try to sow it again. If ingratitude hurts you, don't lose faith in goodness. Try to sow that goodness again. If failure arises, don't give up. Try again and you will succeed. Which is similar almost to the first one. If you fall, don't despair. Try walking again. And he's going to say, try again, and by your side, standing shoulder to shoulder with you, you will always have Jesus, the faithful friend of all times, who never loses hope that one day you may ascend to the kingdom of unchanging peace and love. Try again. But this time when you try to walk again, to be happy again, to understand again, to sow again, to forgive again, to solve the problem again, remember that this friend, the faithful friend of all times, is standing next to you. Anytime you go and you try to do something again, that's the right thing, imagine that Jesus is standing right next to you. Imagine him right next to you, shoulder to shoulder with you. And you'll find this courage, you'll find the faith, you'll find the resilience to persist, to try again. And that's why I love this message for New Year's, because a lot of the times the things we're going to be facing, the monsters we'll face again, are the same ones from 2025. The same ones from 2024, sometimes 2023, 2022. The ones sometimes, the ones that we have been dragging with us for so long. They're going to reappear. So when that happens, remember, Jesus is standing right next to you. Imagine this faithful friend of all times when you're attempting again. Another point of this message that I love is that everything that Albino says here is 100% within my control. 100% my own actions. He's not saying try to forgive again, but only if the other one forgave you first. Then you don't even, if not, you don't even try. He's not saying try to solve the problems, but only if somebody's solving them with you. Otherwise, what's the point? No, everything is us. Everything is me. Try walking again. I'm in charge of that. Try to forgive again. Try to understand again. Try to sow again. All of these actions are my responsibility. They relate to myself or my actions only. And I love that, because that removes the responsibility, the blaming to the other person. It brings everything to me. We call it in psychology locus of control. It's an internal locus of control. I can do these things. Also, another one psychographed by Chico. There's going to be a lot of those. In this message titled Time in God, this is what the author Emmanuel is going to tell us, do not let yourself be overcome by empty time. An idle brain is a refuge for shadows. An unoccupied house harbors harmful creatures. The time that belongs to you, you can give it in service, and any help to others is help to yourself. Do not despise time, for time comes from God. So, interestingly, he's saying here how an empty time. So, what is the empty time? Perhaps it's something that we did so much in 2025, but now we have the power to do it differently. Empty time, idle time, wasted time even. And when I say wasted, let's not just think of wasted time as like the most obvious one. Let's say scrolling through social media, or like look on YouTube rabbit hole, or like doing nothing with nothing. And we're thinking, oh, I'm so unproductive here. Think of wasted time as well in all those moments where we were harboring negative thoughts, where we were harboring resentment, carrying resentment, wasting time, mind reading, or trying to read the minds of others, and becoming unhappy and upset with that. These are wasted times as well. And he's saying an idle brain is a refuge for shadows. If we're not putting the powers that we have to work, we're going to be harboring what? If we're not making good use of our time, what's going to happen? Emmanuel is so categorical in this when he says, if you're sowing, forgot the exact message, but the idea is like even the person that's doing nothing is sowing something. So don't think we're never sowing because I'm just doing nothing. If you're doing nothing when you could be doing something, you're sowing negative things. You're going to reap benefits that are not so good. So this is another challenge, I think, for us to think of the wasted time, to think of the time that we have been given in 2026, now a whole new year that started, and how to use that. And this other message by also Emmanuel, the lost hour, he's going to say, remember that the stewards of material fortune, as well as the victims of the lack of earthly resources, the wise and the ignorant, the healthy and the sick, so he's doing opposites here, the happy and the unhappy, will appear before the infallible justice, and keep with you the certainty that the only remedial scourge is that of wasted time in the human journey. Because affections and possessions, opportunities and values, lessons and talents return in some way to our hands through the incessant reincarnations, but the lost hour is a gift from God that will never return. The lost hour, or the wasted hour, that one is not going to return. We may have opportunities that we think will never come by again, and that may be true in a way, depending. But a lot of those opportunities, when they come from, let's say, health or sickness, wealth or poverty, these sort of opportunities that we have to grow in every position, every situation that we have, if we need to go through them, we'll go through them again, thanks to the divine justice, thanks to reincarnations. But the lost hour, the wasted hour that we spent erring, that we spent in mistake, that one is not going to come back. It's the resource that is unrenewable. It's time. We can't renew it. And then we may await for another opportunity. We may have to await for another time when we have that hour again at our disposal with all the resources that we have at our disposal. But when is that going to come? We don't know. But what he's saying is everything, all these opposites, they may come again. But the lost hour is a scourge. He says the wasted time is a scourge. So when we think about this, I invite us all, each one of us, to reflect on the wasted time of 2025. And then bring that to 2026 to change, to do it differently. Question 919 of the Spirit's book, know thyself. The answer to that, at least, we have to know ourselves. So that's why I brought some points for reflection here for us. Where am I spending my time? The new year just started, but we're already 11 days into the new year. From the calendar standpoint, 2026 is already well on its way. well on its way, on its way. And one of the biggest things, or one of the I think the biggest mistakes that can happen is when we are there, like I said, on December 31st, with all this hope and yes, tomorrow is gonna be better. I'm gonna have a new year ahead of me. I'm gonna do everything differently. But it's almost as if we're expecting something magical to happen when the hour shifts from 11:59 to 12, from 0:00. Nothing magical is gonna happen to that. Is to change in the calendar, but nothing magical is going to happen unless we make the magic happen, unless we make something different with our time. So where am I spending my time? Where am I spending? And the word spending is interesting here because we think of spending as a resource. If we say, where do you spend your money? Where do you spend your abilities? Where do you spend your time? As a resource that has been granted to each one of us, and one that, guess what, we don't know how much we have, contrary to our bank accounts, that we know how much we have there. At least I hope we do. With time, we don't know. We don't know how much time we have left. So where am I spending that resource? Where do my thoughts dwell? How is my inner temple? Where are my thoughts? Because where my thoughts are, that's where my actions are going to be. That's where my sentiments, that's where my heart is going to be. Where do my thoughts dwell now in 2026? And the follow-up question to that perhaps is, well, where do I want them to dwell? How do I want my inner sanctuary to be? Thoughts, something so powerful that we discussed in so many different studies and lectures and all of that here, conferences even. This instrument that we have that is so powerful that can modify our reality and the reality of others. Where are my thoughts? How are my thoughts? What's the essence of my thoughts now in 2026? What are my priorities? We talk about resolutions, we talk about action. This is what it is. Where are my priorities? What am I prioritizing actually? Like what am I doing with my time? How am I spending it? How am I better than I was last year? Am I already better perhaps than I was last year? Have already done something in these 11 days since the new year started? Have already done something that I have not done last year? Maybe. Great if that's the case. Keep it up. But how am I better? And then perhaps in parentheses we can put, how am I going to be better than who I was last year, than the person that I was last year, than the things that I did last year? How am I going to improve? Have I been giving up easily? And this is more perhaps for 2025. Reflections for the whole year that just passed and this new year that begins. Have I been giving up easily? Do I just do like Simon Peter, the first strong wind, my eyes suddenly start to drown when I was walking on water with my faith? How am I persisting? How am I being resilient in face of challenges? How am I adapting to the challenges? How am I changing myself? Or have I just been giving up? This year's already down the drain. Anyways, I'll try next year. 2027 is going to be better. These are all things for us to think. Am I postponing necessary changes? Am I postponing? Am I doing the big P word that we hear in therapy so often, procrastination? Am I procrastinating? Am I postponing that necessary change, that thing that I need to change? Know thyself, that I know about myself and I know I need to change. Am I postponing that? I'll try again next year. This year is just not, the stars are not lining up. I don't feel good today. I'll try next year. Am I postponing that? Am I postponing what I need to do differently? Am I postponing taking on that new challenge because it's scary? Am I postponing changing for better because other people are going to look at me and judge me? And they're going to have a lot to say about it. These are questions that I think can guide us and motivate us go from hope to action in this new year. Now, the book Living Spring brings this beautiful message about renewal. Again, also very much in line with what Joanna was saying in the beginning about inner renewal, moral renewal for this new year. And Emmanuel is going to say, let us renew ourselves each day, each and every day. This is the title of the message, by the way, message 107. Because Emmanuel is going to say that a lot of the times, he's going to say in this message, when we want more titles, we want more financial resources, we want more responsibilities. And he says a lot of the times, these are they have the potential to just increase our responsibilities. So careful what you wish for, in a way. If you're wanting all of that, you're going to have more responsibility now that you have that. If you indeed get whatever that is. But he's going to say just asking for more things is not enough. He says, let us renew ourselves daily. Let us renew ourselves on the inside. And he says, we must advance in the superior knowledge, even if it costs us sweat and tears. Accepting the problems of the world, missing the world there, and overcoming them by means of the power of our labor and serenity is the best formula for acquiring discernment, for acquiring the knowledge, the discernment to know this is good, this is right, I must persist in doing this, versus this is actually not good. It's wrapped nicely, everybody else might be doing it, but this is not who I want to be or where I want to be. And then he continues by saying, pain, sacrifice, affliction, and suffering are processes of sublimation that the greater world offers us so that our spiritual vision may increase. Pain, affliction, suffering, sacrifice, these are processes of spiritual depuration. These are processes that the world offers us. They are necessary for our journey. They are necessary for our moral advancement, for our spiritual advancement. Because nothing is by accident. If we conceive that we're having pain, affliction, suffering, that's unfair, we can't say that we believe in a fair God, in an infinitely good, perfect being. We can't, because if it was 0.0000001% fallible, vengeful, it's not perfect. It's not perfectly good. Just, fair, loving, merciful. It's not. So these are the things Emmanuel is saying. Pain, affliction, suffering, they're going to come daily. These challenges are going to come daily. So these are processes necessary for us. So he says, let us renew ourselves each day. But let us not forget that it is only by fulfilling our duties in the concretization of the good that we can grasp what life is. And with it, the understanding of what God's perfect will for us is. Understanding God's will for us. Understanding that when we're making good happen, when we are actually acting in a way that is in line with goodness, that's where we're going to be doing this renewal. Not wanting to change the whole world outside without changing the world inside first. He doesn't say, let us renew others every day. He says, let us renew ourselves daily. And I love this. I want to emphasize this again. Daily. It's not let us renew ourselves in 2026 because that's too broad. What does that even mean? Let us renew ourselves daily, and he's giving us the roadmap for that. And there's this other message here. This one is by the Spirit Neo Lucio in a book psychographed by Chico. And he's giving this message basically on the New Year's. And he's saying, no, I want to congratulate everybody, but he says, alongside other values of the eternal spirit, it is essential to consider that time, opportunity, and the probability of acting come, in fact, from divine hands. So time comes from God. We have been granted this opportunity every day. Now for 2026, for 300 and something days now, 354 days we have left. And he says, That is why, my children, he's saying, it is in congratulating you on the passing of the old year and the arrival of the new year, we do not limit ourselves to simple wishes of happiness in obedience to the old routine of earthly conventions. So he's saying not just congratulating Happy New Year, just because it's almost like mechanical. Happy New Year. But he's saying let us not just do just that, because he says the happiness of legitimate peace that comes from duty well performed, from obligations accepted and carried out with good and love. So this is the happiness that we must strive for as well. The duty fulfilled. The duty to myself, the duty to others around me, that duty fulfilled. We're going to have peace that's going to come from that, and a little bit of happiness. And this book, and also this message called New Year's Letter. Man is going to say the New Year is also renewal of our opportunity to learn, to work, and to serve. It's a new opportunity. If we're here again, we have a new opportunity to learn, to work, and to serve. Time, like a paternal friend, as if reincarnated in the body of the calendar. I love that analogy. As if time is reincarnated in the body of the calendar, because then we can measure it. Unveils clearer horizons for the necessary ascent. But he says, remember that the returning year makes you think, right? But wait, 2026 is a new year. But he says the returning year is a new day, calling you to fulfill old promises that you haven't yet had the courage to keep. Fulfilled old promises. I love this paragraph because he's saying the returning year in the sense, not with the number 2026, 2027, 2024. It doesn't matter. It is a new year. Here's the new resources that you have. And you have only every day as a resource, because we never know what's going to happen tomorrow, if we're going to still be here. If we're still going to be in this opportunity with this opportunity that we have. But he's saying that the returning year is a new day. Why? If we think of the immortal life of the spirit, what is 1 year in the immortal life of a spirit? If we take a spirit that has millions, billions of years, what is 1 year? It's not even 1 day. It's the fraction of a second. That one day when we look back, by 1 day I mean we cannot even imagine that, but 1 day very far ahead, we're going to look back and it's going to be this tiny, tiny thing. But this tiny, tiny thing, 2026, it's going to have built up to let us to be where we are, or where we're going to be. On November, I gave a talk here about the value of time. And when I read this, I remember that part when I mentioned Kairos and Chronos. Chronos, the two notions that the Greek had of time. Chronos, the one that's like, it's depicted as this old man, bearded, very impassible, and it's like the measure of time in hours, days, etc., the calendar. But Kairos is the other representation they have of time, or they had of time. And Kairos is depicted as this, this man, the young man that has no clothes and has a pointy hair like this. But the hair is only on the front. Because they say that for Kairos, as in opportunity, you can only catch it if it's coming at you and you grab it from the front of it. Once Kairos passes, you can't grab it anymore. You have nothing to hold on to. It's gone. The opportunity is past. That made me think of this. That made me think as well. This made me think of the Kairos thing. Also the opportunity, the wasted time. Once that opportunity passes, we never know. We can't catch it anymore. So, Emmanuel is going to continue saying, new year, new day. Smile at those who have hurt you and seek harmony with those who have not understood you until now. Remember that there is more ignorance than malice surrounding your destiny. The humanity, man is more ignorant, more fragile than it is evil. He's talking about the ignorance here than malice. Do not forget that Jesus never despairs us, and if hidden by our side, patient and kind, repeats to us hour after hour. This is Jesus repeating to us, hour after hour. Love and help always. These are imperatives. Love and help always. Help others, supporting yourself. Because if the day returns tomorrow, I am with you, waiting for the sweet joy of the open door of your heart. He's always by our side. So we must love and we must help always. And he's talking about the door, the open door of our heart. And I read this sort of like fictional story in a way that I wanted to mention to you guys, where they had an art exhibit, and one of the most awaited artists was this person that was a great painter, and he painted he did a work on about Jesus, and he painted, this is AI by the way, this is of course a fictional story, but he painted Jesus at the door, at a door, and everybody was admiring that work of art. Like when he unveiled it, everybody was gasping. They were surprised how beautiful the painting was. And they were coming to the painting and they were saying, my God, look at the details. It feels like we can almost like feel Jesus here. We can almost touch Jesus. Like look at everything he was able to capture. And the artist was standing nearby. And after everybody was like admiring, big crowd, somebody in the crowd said, there's a mistake with the painting. And everybody looked, what, a mistake with the painting? What do you mean? This painting is perfect. The artist was standing nearby, and this person said, there's no latch on the door. I mean, there's no knob on the door. He forgot to put the knob, and the key lock, whatever, on the door. Oh, and everybody, that's true. It's just like a piece of wood, And then the artist came and said, no, this is on purpose. This is to signify that the door of your heart only opens from the inside. So you must open and let Jesus enter. I thought what a beautiful story. The door of your heart opens from the inside. You have to open it to let Jesus enter into your heart. He's not going to force his way through. You have to open it. So perhaps for this new year, this is something we can think of. There's also this other book called Jesus in the Home, where they talk about the imperative of action. And in it, the apprentices, the disciples, were having this debate of, once they knew the good news and they knew about Jesus, they were like, okay, so we must, each one had a different thing in mind. So Philip was saying, we must make people meditate and think more and do this. And James was saying, the older one, saying, we have to create more spiritual retreats so we can isolate ourselves from sin. John was saying, no, I think we should also abandon all our duties, all our professional endeavors, and just devote ourselves to this ministry. There's another disciple saying, no, there's the incessant need for fasting. We must be able to rid ourselves of impurities and all of that. So they were all arguing, and at some point Simon Peter looked at Jesus, waiting for Jesus to kind of chime in. Are you going to say something here, Master? And Jesus turns to each one of them, and he starts saying, no, Peter, what kind of water gives off pestilential miasmas? He says, stagnant, useless water. Okay. James, what kind of fish floats inertly on the waves? It's the dead fish, Lord. He starts one by one. What kind of land becomes overgrown with weeds, harmful to useful crops? It is the good land that has been neglected. So the good land that has been neglected. Thaddeus, what kind of tunic becomes a nest for destructive moths? The unused tunic, sir. Judas, what happens to buried talent? It is lost because it is useless, Lord. And then Jesus says, if light does not serve to dispel darkness, if bread must be withheld from the hungry, and if medicine must be kept away from the sick, where will we find benefits in the work we propose to do? The divine kingdom holds the imperative of actions as a fundamental principle. Let us move forward and spread the saving truth through our words, our thoughts, our deeds, and our very lives. So, do you see the beauty of this? From hope to action. This is action. It's not just hoping, it's not just studying, it's not just coming here and absorbing whatever it is that you're learning. But it's putting all those things to action, putting those things into practice. That's why they were saying all these things that would basically isolate them and put them out of work. Avoid doing what Jesus was wanting them to do. But in the fact, Jesus said, the divine kingdom holds the imperative of action as a fundamental principle. We must act. But a lot of the times when we act, what we find are barriers or challenges, and that's why I brought Joanna de Angelis now. Because she tells us to keep going. She says, lift your weary spirit and continue fighting. The land tilled by the plow produces more. The spring visited by the bucket quenches thirst more effectively. The tree blessed by pruning bears more fruit. And the heart most visited by pain becomes more refined, becomes more purified as well. Look at all the analogy that she's saying. All these things, when the land is tilled by the plow, the land is not happy. If we imagine land having feelings, the land is not happy because the plow is cutting through it. When the tree is pruned, it's going to produce more, but there's going to be a cutting, a severance there. So is the heart with pain. But we must keep going because the struggle is the climate in which the true heroes are forged, and suffering is the sublime cell that gives rise to true servants. She says, suffering is the climate in which true heroes are forged. Think of anybody that you admire for their morals, for their work, for whatever you want to think of in that regard, for following Jesus' teachings. You're going to find suffering. You're going to find barriers. You're going to find challenges, inevitably. I don't even need to know who you guys thought of. But you're going to find suffering. You're going to find sacrifice to do good and to keep going. Examining the obstacles you face in your earthly journey, work diligently, serving in the struggle you are engaged in. In them, you'll find invitations to humility, exercises in perseverance, and calls to faith. Once again, going back to Joanna's first message of the happy life. Perseverance, faith, working diligently every single day, not giving up, persisting. And if someone tells you that the effort you are undertaking is madness, remain silent and persevere in your duty. And I put the image of him who remained silent when he needed to remain silent when it was needed. But he always persevered in his duty, always persevered in his mission to show us the light, to show us the way. So to start a new year is to start anew. Everything in life can be started anew so that the law of progress and improvement may be fulfilled in all directions. Indeed, on many occasions when we neglect opportunities and tasks granted to us in the Lord's work, we return later to review and resume them, but never too late. It's never too late. Because as we talked about, these opportunities, the ones that need to be there for our evolution, they will come again, for sure. We don't know how, in what wrapping, in what manner, but they will come again. In the way that it's never too late. So if you missed out on something on 2025, try again for 2026, basically. Persevere. Undertake that challenge again in 2026. And to close, I wanted to read a poetry here. In Portuguese, it rhymes, is nicer, but I translated it to English, so I'll have to do anyways. And this one is by an author called Casimiro Cunha, psychographed by Chico. And he says, between a year that is ending and another that is beginning, there is always new hope, promises of a new day. Consider, my friend, in the short interval, all the time you have lost without knowing how to use it. If the year has passed, was one of somber bitterness, our Father is never poor of the bread of light and joy. Think that heaven does not forget the smallest creature and wait resignedly for your share of happiness. Consider above all that you need from now on to fill all your time with light from the blessing of each moment. Be in the workshop of the world the most perfect apprentice, for only in the work will your ear be happy. Do not expect rewards from the goods of earthly life, but turn all your hope to the peace of the Divine Master. In your struggles, never forget this profound concept. The kingdom of Christ's light does not reside in this world. Do not look at the faults of others. Do not judge your brother. Live only in the work of your own renewal. He who truly strives to know the practice of good knows his own duties without criticizing anyone. New Year. Ask heaven to protect your work, to grant you faith in the most sublime comfort. A good year. May God bless you in the effort that leads you from the sad shadows of the earth to the blessing of Jesus. And Happy New Year.